Good morning, Tana. How are you today?
Hi, Jason. I am great. It was trick-or-treating last night, and I love that time of year. And it was, yeah. I'll be
Yeah.
stealing some of my 6-year-olds too.
Oh, I consider it rent for our house. I'm like, okay, kids, Reese's and Butterfingers and Cowtails, right? That's your rent this month. And they give me it. I don't even have to ask. I love it.
That's nice of them because I would keep that Reese's for myself.
I love it. All right. Today's book chat. Thanks for joining, Tana. I always love rapping with you about the books we talk about because you are one hell of a smart person, and I love learning from smart people.
As are you.
Well, thank you. Miracle Mornings by a gentleman named Hal Elrod. I think I'm saying his name right. Hal Elrod. And it's about how to set up a miracle morning. It's about a morning routine and all of this. So I was kind of pumped. I was the one who chose this book this week because I've logged my 10,000 hours in watching the YouTube videos and podcasts on the benefits of having a morning routine. But when I finally looked at myself in the eyes and said, okay, you spent all those hours learning about the benefit of it. Do you have a morning routine, Jason? And my answer was kind of. that was the truth. Kind of.
That's fascinating because that is not what I would have assumed from you.
I know nobody thinks it. So there's a surprise for actually probably 98% of all humans that know me.
I love it.
Yeah, the answer was kind of because I'm always learning about all these cool new modalities, and I'll be laying out in the woods or running in a river or cold plunging or sauna or yoga or didgeridoo, you name it. I've tried it, but there's so many coming in and I'm so damn curious about them that I just keep stuffing new stuff in. So I never actually get the routine part down. You know what I mean?
Yeah, your curiosity is wonderful, but there is the double-edged sword of it that it's making it so you can't have a routine. Interesting.
Very interesting. The variables of the routine got me. So that's why I said, all right, I heard about this Hal guy and he's got a cool book and a program. So let's give it a go. But before we dig in, I got some points we'll kind of cover. I guess I'm driving on today's chat, but I would love to, I'd like for you to describe to the folks listening, you are a routine person. You got it pretty down pat. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, my brain, if there is a system to be had in life, my brain is just craving it all the time. Like the biggest filter I feel like my brain throughout my entire life is, how can we do this easier? How can we do this faster? How can we do this better? So it's just constantly filtering in that way. And it's been like that since I was little. And so the morning is definitely a time where I noticed that if there are certain things that I input right away after I wake up, that the rest of my day is just so much better. So it evolves as I get older, but I mean, one of the first things that I input early in my life in high school was, and part of what he talks about, and we'll probably talk about SAVERS, his little acronym for the 6 inputs that we have every morning. But one of those is scribing, which is journaling. And I don't journal, but I do a gratitude journal where I just write 5 things that I am grateful for every day. And that's been something that I have done consistently since high school. And that's one of the best things that I have ever done in my life, because it just has retrained my brain not to be reptilian and think, oh, what's going to go wrong today? What's going to kill me today? What's going to hurt me today? What am I going to fail at today? But it's completely retrained my brain in the 20 some years since high school, that I'm always looking for the positive. And so that's one of the things that has always been a part of my routine. And it's gradually gotten bigger. And some of the things that we're going to talk about with his SAVERS acronym are definitely things that I've put in here and there.
So you would say literally 20 years you've had kind of a routine down, maybe even longer.
Yes.
Wow.
Sure.
Okay, so you are a queen in that regard, and I'm kind of a young prince in this regard. So this is good stuff. All right, so a couple of bullet points we'll clear through here, and today's call might be a little shorter because this is a pretty distinct conversation. Hopefully it helps some people though who are dabbling in this routine idea. First point I had here is, you already touched on it, Tana, is if someone has done anything with a system, including developed excellence in their life and in their work, then you can do it. Because it's the system that's doing it. It's not necessarily the person or the gigantic brain that they were born with or any of that. The system is what's catapulting them. And so Hal Elrod in this book is saying, those 5%ers at the top, they all have a routine. It may not be recognizable as a routine, but it's definitely a routine. And, he says that 95% of all humans really aren't maxing out. They would even self-describe as, well, I got a decent job and everything's good and okay, but only 5% say, yeah, I'm knocking it out of the park. And I put the work in to do it, and, some grace and good fortune and all that mixes in, and then the 5%ers happen. But the morning routine, he is saying, is one of the variables that all of them share. So why wouldn't you want to try it? And I agree. Yeah. And you pretty much just described for you, Tana, in your life, and you're one of the more content, happy people I know, great success in every area. And look at that, another one, 20 years of routine to set the morning off in the right direction.
For sure.
And it kind of plays into, so on my next bullet point, I wanted to mention, we've all heard practice makes perfect. Well, he emphasizes, actually, that's not true. The truth is, perfect practice makes perfect. Mm-hmm. And so basically he's saying this morning routine that we should have, in his opinion, is practicing perfect, deliberate living. You just do it for a short amount of time to get that exercise, to get that muscle pumped. And then you can stay deliberate for the rest of the day. So it's kind of a meta level exercise. You are practicing a perfect day in that little block of time in the morning. And that's really the essence of the book. But now it gets a little more practical as we go in.
Yeah, he says the first hour of the morning is the rudder for the rest of the day, which is exactly what you're describing. And it's exactly what I feel as well about my life.
Yes, exactly. That's a beautiful statement, the rudder. And by the way, he had mentioned a guy named Steve Pavlina, who he learned that from. He was one of my early OG gurus. I mean, he was like before Tim Ferriss. He was before all those bloggers. He was before blogging was even a thing. Like, he was one of the first bloggers. And Steve Pavlina, a little controversial because he's a real self-experimenter and he'll try anything. And he writes about it. But it was so cool to hear old Steve Pavlina come up with that. But the morning routine, the morning is the rudder of the day. What a brilliant statement. Thanks for bringing that up. Let's see here. Okay. Now, some people hear this morning routine thing and they think, I'm not a morning person. I'm out. Like, I don't do mornings. Okay. But please just pause and consider what he says here. He mathematically, there's evidence, according to him, and lots of white papers and research papers, can show this, and he can back it, as that there is evidence that waking earlier or early waking is tied categorically to a successful life, and success being defined as the person.
Yeah.
So he said the problem comes in when you wake early and don't do early deliberately and don't do it well. So if you just wake and sloppishly go watch Desperate Housewives, you're probably not going to get the benefit, and therefore the dopamine doesn't drip and the reward centers don't hit in. But if you do a morning deliberately and properly, according to what we're going to talk about here, he says everyone becomes a morning person because the benefits are overwhelming and immediate.
Yeah. Jason, given what we know about the fact that our brains can't clean itself until we go to sleep, and that's when the cerebral spinal fluid actually comes in and like flushes out all of the plaque of the day, of the workings of the brain. Do you think it's even possible to do like a night routine after you've been awake all day and all of that plaque has been building up? Like, can you be a night person and have an equivalent like night routine from like a miracle morning? Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do.
logically, like it's not even possible because the plaque buildup in your brain would be such a hindrance. Whereas in the morning, it's when your brain is the most clean it's going to be throughout the day. So it's kind of like, how can you get the benefits when your brain is so like sludged from everything you've been doing throughout the day? So when I hear people say I'm more of a night owl, I'm like, cool, but how is that like neurologically possible for it to be just as effective as when you're fresh and you just woke up? So do you think it's possible?
I mean, not for me. I can promise you it is not possible for me because I know the difference in clarity of mind and brain
Yeah.
fog between morning and night. But I do have like I can think one guy, like a Greek buddy of mine. I swear to God, I think he's a vampire.
Yeah.
Where he's switched on in the day, but the dude, he's like rocking on at 11:30 at night, like really clear-minded. So I
Yeah.
guess maybe it's genetic, maybe they've got something they're eating or drinking in that Greek food, or I don't know.
Yeah. Like I
But I
definitely
can,
know
you're
people
right
who like
on.
switch it on at night, and I find them to be completely fascinating because I'm like, how? It just doesn't seem like logically and biologically that this could be possible. But tell me more, you little unicorn, because
Yeah, right. And I've experimented with sleeping in different naps because I wanted to gain the night back, and
yeah.
none of it worked. And I tried pretty hard. I even tried some polyphasic sleeping for a little bit. It was a train wreck. Um, and yeah, you're right. The amyloid beta builds as we think. It's one of the outputs of thinking and doing all day. And so you have tremendous resistance in your neural pathways as the
Mhm.
ionic charges go up and down. It's not as efficient. It's just not. So I don't know how those people do it, but if you are one who does it, congratulations. You won
Yeah.
like the lottery of the universe. But at any rate, this sleep thing is an important one. And right before going to bed, this was one of my points too, it reminds me of, is right before going to bed, that's part of the morning routine.
Yeah.
The evening, when you lay your head on the pillow, you should kind of say your affirmations. You should create your narrative of how the morning is going to be. You're kind of like moving the pathway to be able to just flow into a very seamless morning. You want to review the environment where your routine is going to take place. Is the meditation bench already set up? Did you already have your little glass with the salt and the water out in the kitchen? So that basically you just kind of walk and float into your morning routine, not like it's scratching your eyes saying, okay, we're out of glasses and the dishes aren't even clean. And next thing you know, it's a terrible morning, which does the exact opposite. It's the rudder of the day. So the
Mhm.
night before, take a little 3-minute pause, really vision it, and then fix the environment so that it's fluent when you wake. Because in the morning, usually right when you get out of bed, you're not really clicking too fast. So you don't want to have to deal with problems and disruptions. What about that? So Tana, have you naturally done stuff before night to ensure the morning routine is flush and fluent?
Yeah. So I tend to I tend to plan my next day in my mind about 30 minutes before I shut down like my computer and the tech. And that can be somewhat early in the day because sometimes I'm done with my laptop by like noon because I do get up kind of early and you can get
Right.
quite a bit done by noon if you're getting
Oh,
up pretty
yeah.
early.
Yep.
So like 30 minutes before I'm doing my last like cleaning up of all the tasks that I'm doing, but then I'm also thinking about, okay, given what I'm doing with my 6-year-old and getting him to school and getting him ready, and given what meetings I have and at what time, when am I going to be able to, when do I need to start my day tomorrow? And then that means, when do I need to go to bed tonight so that I get enough sleep in order to get up at that time? Because if I've got early things going on, sometimes I have to get up at like 4:30, and that means I need to go to bed at like 8:30 the night before
Mhm.
in order to sleep enough. So I'm always like 30 minutes before I shut down my tech, I'm planning for the next day and figuring out when is the ideal time to do all of the things and to get my morning routine in before everything else
Got it.
starts.
Yeah, and it's great to hear you say that because another item of Hal's in this book, he talks about discipline is what creates lifestyle.
Yeah.
Unless you were unless you kind of had a successful exit of a company and you've got generational money, or you get the big trust fund or whatever, where you don't really actually have to worry about that. You can literally just kind of float and things are financially going to be okay. Financially, keyword. But he says discipline creates lifestyle. And he really talks about how non-excellence is really almost synonymous with non-discipline. And in excellence of whatever you're doing, whether it be mom of the year, CEO of the year, or salesperson of the year, excellence, craftsmanship, there is a wellspring of contentment and happiness in excellence of what you choose to do.
Yeah.
And really at Focus to Evolve, that's what we're zooming in on. We're like, hey, I don't care what you are. If you're spending minutes and calories to do things that matter to you, we want to help you 5 and 10x that, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And so this is discipline thing, this morning routine thing, exactly what you were just talking about there. Having the discipline to look at it proactively tomorrow. And it's like it attaches your heart and brain strings to that. And then it starts just drawing you to it.
Yeah.
And it works.
For sure. And because I know what it's going to look like, it's always been very easy for me to just wake up because I visualized the night before what it was going to be, and I'm already excited about it. So I'm not dreading and thinking, oh, what do I need to do today? I have no idea what's waiting for me. I know exactly what I'm going to do. And I've set up my morning so that it's exciting to get up, no matter what meeting I need to do later on, no matter what unpleasant thing I might need to do in the day. I know that that first hour or so of the morning is going to be exactly what I want it to be. And that like gets me up and out of bed really quickly without a lot of drudgery.
It's like a primer pretty much for the next day. And the primer makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Last night, my wife, she helps in one of the other companies. And can you hear me? My dog is going crazy.
I can definitely hear you. I can barely hear your dog.
Because I'm so upset with that little animal right now. But at any rate, so my wife helps with one of our other companies, and the first of the month and Mondays combined with first of the month, a lot of orders always pile on, and it's always a heavy day for us. So we were sitting there having a pleasant evening last night by the fire. She's like, ugh. She's like, tomorrow's Monday and the first of the week. And I'm like, okay, well, how many of us have felt that before? Had the Mondays on Sunday night? I mean, anyone in corporate world has had that. It's very familiar. And so I said, all right, well, let's do some things we're learning about, right? So let's change that narrative. Like, okay, let's pick 3 things tomorrow that are actually going to be really cool. Like, are you going to do a routine? You're going to meditate. You love doing that. You're going to do a little yoga. Absolutely. She has yoga class tomorrow night. And almost right away, you can see the temperature change.
Yeah.
Initially. And then it was like a slippery rock. If you can just etch your foot in the door to then bust it open, then it becomes quite easy. And it really did. It brought her back to the present moment. And it was a nice little exercise for us to do because she's kind of like my corner man and wing man in the fight. I'm hers in the fight. And so, you need that. You do need people sometimes to say, hey, slap out of it. Let's go. you got tools now. Yeah. But it works. The pre-evening to ensure the morning routine thing works. So really try that visualizing thing. Set the environment up. Do these things. It works. The last little item I'll say before going to the savers, which is like the main point, and then we'll wrap it up, is that he said every person has to have a moment, a line of demarcation where you decide I am done with mediocrity. There. Mm-hmm. I mean, you state it to the universe, you mean it, you say it in your heart, you say it in your mind and your gut. I'm done with mediocrity. And he says, if that is true and you are starting to go into your true craftsmanship, whatever that delivery to the world is, a morning routine is done by every excellent craftsman. So maybe you'll be the first, but I would recommend not trying to be the first. Just do what works, do the system. So, yeah. The sleep thing you mentioned too, to be excellent and to have the morning routine where you do it and it feels good and it catapults you to the right mindset and attitude, alcohol and caffeine. All right. Mm-hmm. Those are 2 things that affect human biology. And some people say, oh, I can drink 3 espressos at 10 at night. It doesn't affect me. maybe, but you'd be quite the anomaly. And it really is true. Like, I know a lot of people, my in-laws are like that. They'll just chug coffee at night. They do complain about how little sleep they get. They complain about how tired they are all the time, but coffee doesn't affect them. Coffee doesn't affect them. Okay. You can take a horse to water, but you certainly cannot make it drink. And so alcohol is the same thing. And Tana, I know you don't deal with either of those. I do. I love a decent alcohol buzz from time to time, but I know I'm paying a price. That night, cerebral spinal fluid is not going to my gray matter. And I will be foggy in the morning. It's a fact. And caffeine, I love the buzz.
Yeah.
But it does affect my sleep. I do get adrenal fatigue. I do get cortisol spikes, and that definitely impacts me. I can't be calm and deliberate and authentic when I have too much of that going through my system. So for those of you at home who are in the battle of alcohol and caffeine as you age, especially, we're all starting to feel it a little more. Start doing some YouTubes on how you can start cutting back. It'll help. Believe me when I tell you. And it'll help with your morning routine because it will allow you to be awake and alert in the morning during the morning routine when you're practicing your excellence. So wanted to squeeze that in there. So Tana, that's one of the things people like me have to deal with. All right. So now let's go into, here's how to do the morning routine according to him. He's got this really cool acronym, SAVERS, SAVERS. S stands for silence. Do a few minutes of silence, or stillness is another way to say that. Affirmations is affirmations. So you have stillness first, then affirmations. I do personally, I've worked mine in and I'm 7 days in now, haven't missed a day.
There you go.
And I've done 5 minutes of stillness or silence, 5 minutes of affirmations. My affirmation, just so you can know, but come up with your own, one that calls to your heart. My affirmation that I repeat for 5 straight minutes out loud and in silence is, I choose freedom, love, and play to elevate all life. I just keep repeating it. And that's my lighthouse. That's just what I'm going to be. That's what I am. And so that's the affirmation. Then you do 5 minutes of visualizing, or I do, visualizing like the dream scenario, the dream day, the dream week, the dream 10-year run, the dream retirement, whatever, just visualize it, bring it in. Then the E is exercise, right? AM, we talked about AM, how it's easier for thinking. It's also easier for working out. Your chances of excuses coming in later in the day, especially as we age and more kids pop out, it gets harder and harder. Got to do it in the morning, according to this author, or the odds are against you. R stands for read. Spend a little bit of time reading something. He recommends 10 pages a day. I actually just do 5 pages a day, but that's because of the content of the stuff I'm reading. It's not really a speed read type thing. And then S is scribe or journal, and Tana already hit on that. So savers, remember, SAVERS, stillness, affirmations, visualizing, exercise, read, and scribing or journaling. He said those are the components that every single successful person he's ever studied do. So there's the system. What do you think about savers, being that you are a veteran on the journaling front?
Yeah, I definitely have most of these in the silence. I don't have a set like meditation period that I do every day. It's just, I have trained myself when I wake up, the moment I become aware that I'm awake, I kind of stop my thoughts and I just say, thank you. And then I say, please lay my path before me. Like that's my mantra. It means that I don't know what's necessarily ahead of me today, but whatever it is, make me ready for it and lay the bricks and I'll follow the path. Like that's my mantra. That's also my affirmation. It's also my visualization, because I kind of do my visualization the night before and it's still fresh in my brain when I wake up. But just taking a few moments to just be like, thank you, please lay my path before me. That that 1 minute of just silence and saying that, it completely sets up my brain so that the rest of the day, my intention is to be grateful and to love as much as I possibly can myself and everybody around me in just that like 1 minute. So it's a very important 1 minute. It's the first thing that I do every day. And then I usually go straight into exercising, because you're right. If I wait any later in the day, my motivation to move my body just gets lower and lower and lower as my energy gets lower. So I go straight into moving my body. And usually I am either listening to an audiobook or I'm listening to a podcast, which means I'm not necessarily reading a book, but it's the same kind of concept. I usually read my books more in the afternoon after my energy has dipped a little bit, because I can still read pretty well, even if I'm not at my highest level of energy. And then there's usually the gratitude journaling of the 5 things that I'm thankful for. And that's kind of my miracle morning routine.
Yeah.
It's very easy. But
thank you for sharing. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And it highlighted, actually, I think, and the author would totally agree with me, but maybe not. He's talking about a miracle morning. He says morning because it's harder to do things at night when the buzzsaw of the day turns on and you're tired and all these things. But, you had mentioned a few things you do in the evening, but they are done daily. This could have been called the miracle daily practice of excellence, I think. So he's, just because he says it's morning, if you can squeeze these components in, but seriously do them daily, then the author is happy with you.
Yeah.
I think what he's saying.
Yeah. And we've been talking, I tend to have an hour or more that I dedicate to this kind of process of mine. But he talks about, if you have 6 minutes, do a minute of each of them, and that can be enough to start your morning off right. And I completely agree with that. If you do 1 minute of silence, 1 minute of affirmations, 1 minute of visualization, 1 minute of exercise, do some push-ups, do some rigorous sit-ups. Even that is enough to get your blood pumping. Reading, if you've got some like daily meditation kind of text that you can read, or maybe it's a verse from the Bible or whatever religious text that you study, that's enough. And you can write 5 things you're grateful for in a minute too. So you definitely can do this in a short amount of time. Like if you're a new mom and you're just like, oh, I don't know where I'm going to come up with an hour because I'm trying to sleep right now. Like, do you have 6 minutes? Can you do a minute of each? Because he's not trying to make it this big drawn out thing. It definitely can be. And I find my days to be much easier if I have a longer time versus a smaller time. But even if you have 6 minutes, you can fit all of the pieces in there, which I loved him saying.
Great point. Totally agree. And if you don't have 6 minutes, there are seasons of life where you literally kind of don't. If you're a new mom and your baby's 2 weeks old and not sleeping at night, just push pause on the development thing and just be with that child in that season. If you have 2 jobs and spouse isn't there and kids and you're going to school at night, probably it's going to be tough. But those are the meteor situations. We want to be respectful of those. For the rest of the human population, the 98%, I like what Tony Robbins says. He goes, if you don't have 10 minutes for meditation, then you need an hour. Yeah. There's so much truth to that. Mm-hmm. All right, so I'm going to kind of check out. I think that we hit all the points that I wanted to. The last thing I would say is, he says it's so important to keep this organic. He goes, if you wake up and you feel like, I got to do my morning routine now, you missed the whole point. Just stop doing it. Yeah. It's not supposed to be another to-do. It is supposed to be an energetic set point of practicing excellence the way you define it. So just because we come up with these savers things and they work for me, they're pretty cool. Do your own thing, but make sure it energetically sets you where you want to be. And that's the last thing I'd say on this. What would any closing comments be for you?
We didn't get into his background much, but the reason why he can kind of speak on this is he had a horrific car crash that killed him for 6 minutes like a couple of decades ago. He was brought back to life and told he could never walk again. And he actually did learn how to walk again. And he had a financial breakdown in 2007 where he lost like all of his money. And so he's had like setbacks in his life. He's not just this easy breezy, my life is great, and this miracle morning is a thing that I just have lots of time to do because nothing ever goes wrong in my life. Like he's had some really serious setbacks. And he said that this is the thing that got him through this. And this is why he teaches it to people. And he has seen so many people. He says it's the miracle morning is the most practical, life-changing method he's ever encountered, which is a huge statement. And I don't know that I could refute that either, because we listen to a lot of podcasts, you and I don't know that there are many people ever that I listen to where they don't mention that they have some sort of a morning routine that starts them exactly the way that he talks about here. And anecdotally, so do I. The people who I know who are the most like grounded, they also kind of wake up and take this time for themselves right away in the morning too. So give it a chance. Even if you have 6 minutes, put some things in that feel right to you and wake you up well in the morning and see what it does, because it's just 6 minutes. And make it longer if you can.
Yeah, if you can, if it's calling you. Absolutely. That was a beautiful way to end. Thank you for adding that. Yeah, very good point. All right. Well, hey, everybody, we'll see you on the next book chat, whatever that's going to be. We haven't decided yet, but it'll be in a few weeks. And thank you for joining. Take care.
Thank you.